students. You're here today with Mrs. Burwitz as we go over the Pythagorean theorem. But first, a question to ponder. How much dirt is in a hole that has a radius of 6 inches and a height of 1 foot? Well, let's draw a picture and find out. So here's our hole, but of course we dug some stuff out of it, so we'll take that. We'll figure out that the height is 1 foot. The radius is 6 inches, which is 0.5 feet. So we'll use that wonderful formula, pi r squared times the height. So if we take pi, and leave it as pi because pi is good, and the radius is 0.5 squared times the height, which is 1, that's going to give us pi times 0.25 times 1, or 1/4 pi, which still is pretty good if you think about it. Click. But then, of course, there is no dirt in a hole. Goodness, should have thought of that before. Well, today we are going to talk about Pythagoras and his theorem, along with square roots. Anytime that I tell you or write the word notes, I need to see this in your journal. So please take a moment right now, pause it if you need to, get your journal out and write Pythagoras. Today we will prove the Pythagorean theorem by completing the tangram activity. Actually, because you wrote these notes down, you will get to do the activity while we wait on some other students to finish some things up. We'll also learn how to calculate the sides of a hypotenuse and the right triangle. We'll see pictures like this. Click. We'll also look at the formula. And we will also look at some pictures with tiles on it. So, tomorrow when you come to school, this is what you will see. And we are going to try to put tangrams in this square right here. Click. See if you can fit all the pieces of a tangram in this square. Click. Then, can you fit the same pieces in the smaller squares? So can we take our tangram pieces and put them in the two smaller squares? Another way of seeing the Pythagorean theorem is through area. Click. Square A, click, has a side of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Click. The area would be 4 by 4, or 16. Click. Square B has a side of 3. Click. So the area of B is 9. Click. Square C has a side of 5. Click. So the area of that is 25. Click. 25 is the same thing as 16 of these squares and 9 more of these squares. Click. So square C is equal to square A plus square B. Click. And here's our formula. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. Click. Now, let's see what Pythagoras has to say. There you go. Pretty cool, isn't it? Square A's area and square B's area fills in square C's area. And vice versa. If we take all of square C, it will fill up square A and square B with the same amount of area, or in this case, volume. Okay, so the rules of Pythagoras. Again, don't write this down. In a right triangle, the square of the measure of the hypotenuse of the C equals the sum of the squares of the measures of the two legs A and B. Sounds crazy, but it's not. Click. One day, while walking on the beach, we did spy that Pythagoras had been there. Click. A right triangle with sides A, B, and C. Click. Legs A and B are perpendicular to each other. Remember, it has the 90-degree angle. A is usually the shortest side, B is the longest, middle side. Click. Here's our formula. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Click. Side C is the longest side, and they gave it a very special name called the hypotenuse. Please write that down. In fact, go ahead and draw this right triangle. A squared, or A, B, and C is the hypotenuse. Click. Now, we need to determine if this is a right triangle. So we will take 3, which is side A, and square it. We will take B and square it, which is side of 4. And we want to find out, will it equal side C squared, which would be 5 squared? Well, 3 squared is 3 times 3, or 9. 4 squared is 16. 5 squared, 5 times 5 is 25. And 9 and 16 gives us 25. So both sides are equal. So it is a right triangle. Click. Click. Is this a right triangle? First, you need to figure out which of these numbers is the hypotenuse. That is side C. It is always opposite the right angle. So this is C. This is usually our middle side, which would be B. And 5 is A. So, on your notes, I would like you to solve that problem like we did the previous problem and determine, is this a right triangle? Remember, just because it has the box does not mean that it's a right triangle. You have to test it out using that formula. Click. And just who is this Pythagoras guy? He was born in Samos. Lifespan was from 572 BC to 510 BC, in the 500s, thousands of years ago. He was a great Greek philosopher. He traveled as far as Egypt and India. And of course, his only method of transportation were camels and elephants back then. He lived in Italy for a while. He formed the Pythagorean Brotherhood. He believed all things are numbers. And he studied volume and area and proportions and solids. Same things you guys do today. Click. He also was a little bit overconfident about himself. He believed that there were men, gods, and men like himself. Click. Some of the school rules of the Pythagorean Brotherhood, they had to abstain from beans. They must not pick up what is fallen. They must not touch a white rooster, and they must not stir fire with iron. Now granted, I got this information off the internet, so be a little inquisitive when you find out facts such as this. This might be something to put into notes for extra credit. If I asked you, what were some of those school rules? Click. Some requirements for the society. Must be a vegetarian. Men and women are equal. That's the one I really like. Property is communal. Mathematics is communal. That means whatever someone else thinks about mathematically, someone else can take credit for that as well. So Pythagoras may not have been the one who came up with this theorem. Click. Here, for your entertainment viewing, is the Pythagorean cat. Will he find the hypotenuse? And you say that homework is painful. Click. The discovery of irrational numbers, those numbers that just go on and on and on, was a great event and very troubling to Pythagoras. He didn't think that could happen. One legend has it that one of his society members was drowned off a ship for telling secrets outside of the brotherhood. And as a result, Pythagoras was exiled, cast away. However, the Pythagorean brotherhood continued working on and giving you the math that you now use today. And now for some more viewing pleasure.
You may be right, but nothing.
Yeah, please click it. Thank you. Okay, let's try again. Click down here somewhere, honey. Honey, my son is helping me with this. Okay, it's not working.
Oh, anyways,
Yes, you may read it.
you may be right, Pythagoras, but if everybody's going to laugh if you call it a hypotenuse.
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 Okay, click.
There.
I need you to write down these square roots. I want them to be memorized, so these need to go in your notes. So take a moment, pause the video, and write them down. You all know these, but I need you to remember them again. Square root of 1 is 1. The square root of 4 is 2. What times itself gives you 9? 3. What times itself gives you 16? 4. And just continue on through the rest of these. We'll have a little quiz in a day or two. Okay, click. The Pythagorean triples. We will cover this at a later time. Click. But I would like for you to know these, so please put these into your notes. And we will talk about them later. Click. Click. And finally, one of my favorite pictures of a young man at a young age who was dressed without his consent is Pythagoras for his first Halloween. Reality is mathematical in nature by Pythagoras. Thank you for viewing the video. Make sure that you have filled in your notes, and I look forward to seeing them on Tuesday back in class. I will also put out the 2 videos onto Edmodo as well so that you can read them and enjoy the song that we could not see up here about the hypotenuse. Have a great weekend.
Bye. Thank you.